Okay, let's jump right in. Have you ever heard the theory that every single U.S. citizen is actually collateral for the national debt? It's a wild idea, right? Well, today we're going to unpack the logic behind it. This is all about a theory called commercial redemption. Now, to be super clear, our goal here isn't to say if this is true or not. We're just going to walk through how its supporters lay out their argument piece by piece.
So this really gets to the heart of it. The whole theory hinges on this one question. It's designed to make you stop and, well, question everything you thought you knew about your relationship with the government. It even goes after the basics, like what money and debt actually are.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll dig into this idea of a national bankruptcy. Then, we'll see how that supposedly flips your legal status from a citizen to collateral. And stick with me, because the last part is the really wild one. The strange, almost backward way the theory says you can get free.
Okay, so first up, the alleged bankruptcy. The whole foundation of this commercial redemption argument rests on one major claim, that the U.S. secretly went bankrupt way back in 1933. Let's take a look at the piece of history they use as their main evidence.
This right here, this is House Joint Resolution 192. And for people who believe in this theory, this is the smoking gun. Basically, it made it illegal for anyone to demand payment in gold. So the argument goes, the government was pretty much admitting it was broke. It couldn't pay its debts with what they saw as the only real money out there. So think about it from their perspective. If you can't demand gold anymore, what are you left with? Federal Reserve notes. Dollar bills. The theory says those aren't actually payment for a debt. They're just promises to pay. It's kind of like paying off your Visa with a MasterCard. You're not getting rid of the debt, you're just moving it around. And this is where things get really interesting. The theory takes a term we all know, legal tender, and just flips it on its head. We think it means money, right? But in their world, it's just proof of a debt. So every dollar bill you have isn't actually an asset. It's an IOU from the government.
Okay, so let's follow the logic. If the government is supposedly bankrupt, and its money is just a bunch of IOUs, how on earth does it get credit to operate? Well, the theory's answer is pretty shocking. It says the government uses its citizens, you, as collateral. And this is where the whole thing shifts from talking about history to talking about your legal status.
And they point to the 14th Amendment to back this up. It all comes down to two little words, subject to. Now, most of us read that and think, okay, I have to follow the laws of the land. But this theory claims it means something much more, that you are legally owned by the government, almost like you're an asset on their balance sheet.
So this chart basically lays out how they see the world. In their view, when you walk into a courtroom, there are only two roles you can play. You're either a creditor or a debtor. The state, they say, is always the creditor because it holds the real assets. And you, as a U.S. citizen, are automatically assumed to be the debtor. You're the collateral that backs the whole system. All right, so if you're supposedly trapped in this system, how do you escape? This is where the theory gets really, really weird. It takes a complete U-turn. The answer, they claim, isn't to fight back. It's to agree.
And here's the so-called trap. The system is supposedly set up so that the moment you argue or complain about a debt, the moment you say, I don't know that, you're legally labeled as being in rebellion. Your very first instinct to defend yourself is the thing that guarantees you lose. It's a clever catch-22 if you think about it.
So here's the playbook they propose. Step 1, you get a bill or a charge. Step 2, don't deny it because that's rebellion. Step 3, don't argue about it because that's called dishonor. The only move you have, according to them, is the one you'd never expect. You have to accept the charge for value. And they say that single move completely flips the script.
Okay, but what in the world does accept for value even mean? That question brings us to the actual how-to part of the theory, the commercial remedy. And they claim this whole process is built on solid, established principles of commercial law. The key to this whole thing is a legal idea called novation. It's not as complicated as it sounds. Think of it like when you refinance your house. You're basically swapping out the old contract for a new one. The theory says that when you accept a bill for value, you are forcing a novation. You're creating a brand new contract, but in this new one, you're not the debtor anymore, you're the creditor.
And this is why they see everything, a traffic ticket, a utility bill, a court summons, as a contract offer. It has all the parts, right? You've got competent parties, an agreement, consideration, the whole shebang. And the argument is, since these are just commercial contracts, they're open to being renegotiated. And that acceptance we talked about, that's your opening move. And this is the end game. The moment you accept the charge and take on the role of the creditor, the whole situation flips. The burden of proof is no longer on you.
Now the person or company that sent you the bill has to prove their claim to you. And according to the theory, if they can't, well, they legally have to wipe the slate clean and close the account.
So when you put it all together, the alleged bankruptcy, the idea of citizens as collateral, and this commercial remedy, the source material basically says you're left with a choice. There are two paths you can take.
And they don't mince words. This quote really lays it out in black and white. It frames the whole thing as a choice. Either you voluntarily go along with the system as a slave to debt, or you use this remedy that was supposedly created to deal with this moneyless situation.
And there you have it. That's the commercial redemption theory in a nutshell. Look, whether you think it's a brilliant hidden truth or just a complete work of fiction, you have to admit, walking through the logic really makes you question some fundamental things. And it leaves us with this big question to chew on. What really is the relationship between a government, its money, and its people?